Hey guys, Hal here coming at you with another movie review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Superman 2. As I said in my previous review video for Superman, I was going to be doing all of the films leading up to James Gunn's Superman movie on July the 11th, and the day has finally arrived where I'm going to be reviewing Superman 2. So let's get to it. Superman 2 was released in 1980. It's the sequel to the hugely successful Superman the movie from 1978. It's directed by Richard Lester, though much of the film was originally shot by Richard Donner, the director of the first movie. Superman 2 continues the story of Clark Kent's struggle to balance his superhero duties and his love for Lois Lane. The plot picks up right after the events of the first movie. After saving the world from the chaos caused by a runaway nuclear missile, Superman, once again played by Christopher Reeve, faces his biggest challenge yet. When three Kryptonian criminals, General Zod, Ursa, and Non, escape the Phantom Zone and arrive on Earth, they demand to rule the planet. To stop them, Superman is forced to make a huge personal sacrifice. He chooses to give up his powers to live as a mortal in order to be with Lois Lane, once again played by Margot Kidder. So if you've seen my first Superman review, then you'll be aware that I'm a huge Superman fan and I absolutely love the original Superman films. So we're going to be discussing the performances, my favourite scenes, maybe scenes that don't hold up so well, and the drama that went on whilst making this film. So all the main actors and characters return in this film, with Christopher Reeve reprising his role as Superman. He absolutely owns this role still, in my personal opinion. You've had some great Superman since, Brandon Routh, of Henry Cavill, who's a massive fan favourite. My personal opinion is that Christopher Reeve he can't be topped. His portrayal of Clark Kent is probably the best portrayal of Clark Kent in superhero cinema, in my opinion. He brings all that charm, as he does in the previous film. You even get to see a little bit more of it in this one as well because of his relationship with Lois. And, that comes on bounds in this one. You've got Margot Kidder, who's again reprised her role as Lois Lane. You get to see more of a bossy side to her, but then she also lets her guard down in this film because you see her relationship build with Clark Kent and then ultimately Superman. You see her really fear for Superman when he actually engages in conflict with all the villains at the end. Gene Hackman also returns as Lex Luthor. Although he's not the main villain in this film, he does play this excellent down-the-middle role where he kind of he's on one side and then he's on the other. He really plays the in-between. And I was very sad actually to hear that Gene Hackman actually passed away a couple of weeks back. So rest in peace to Gene Hackman, because he'll always be in my mind as the best Lex Luthor as well. So it's great to see him in this film. So before we get into the real nitty-gritty for the review, I want to discuss one of my favourite scenes, and that comes at the very beginning of the film, where Clark Kent needs to get away from Perry White in the Daily Planet office because he's heard that Lois Lane is in Paris reporting on a terrorist group that's taken over the Eiffel Tower. It's a very simple scene, but what with the music in the background, the way then Clark Kent goes into this alley, he's wearing his suit and tie, he starts to run, he loosens up his tie, opens up his shirt, and then transitions into Superman and takes off. It's such a simple scene, but works so well. And it's certainly one scene that is just not dated whatsoever. I often go back to this scene and just watch it on YouTube sometimes just because of nostalgic purposes. So one of the main stories in this film is actually between Lois Lane and Clark Kent, and watching their relationship grow. Lois Lane is constantly trying to figure out if Clark Kent is Superman or not. And there's a couple of different scenes where they really dive into this. There's one where he's at Niagara Falls, where Clark Kent disappears off to go get him a couple of hot dogs. Next thing you know, Superman's there saving a lad that's fallen into the Niagara Falls. I don't know if you've seen this film as well. What was that lad doing, by the way? I don't know if you've seen it, but he's at Niagara Falls. He's on the bars over the waterfall, like letting go with one hand. What are the bloody parents doing? Anyway, yeah, Superman turns up, saves him from falling to his demise, and then Lois Lane is constantly like, well, that's weird, because Clark Kent was here a minute ago, then he disappears, now you're here. And she starts trying to figure it out, like, well, actually, I think Clark Kent's Superman. And there's quite a few scenes there where she's putting herself at risk because she wants Clark Kent or Superman to come and save her. And it's quite a good watch. There, you actually get to see the first time that Superman uses laser vision, where Lois is in this ravine because she's chucked herself in it, expecting Superman to turn up and save her. He doesn't. Clark Kent's there running on the side, just doing everything possible to try and get her out without turning into Superman. So there's this little scene where he pops his glasses down and just goes, and to this branch, so it falls in and she can get hold of it. I love all these scenes, you can tell, because I'm just absolutely geeking about it. But yeah, this story is very good, and it all leads into what makes Superman, or Clark Kent, should I say, find it a struggle to deal with these villains, because he eventually gives up his powers because he loves Lois Lane and he doesn't want to be Superman anymore. But Superman 2 isn't all just about the good guys, because the villains really steal the show in this film. You've got Terrence Stamp, who plays General Zod, and he is perfect. He's ruthless, he's powerful, and he even gives that iconic line of, "Kneel before Zod!" He's just absolutely fantastic in this. He really does steal the show. Zod's not just a villain, he's a true threat. And his crew, Ursa, who's played by Sarah Douglas, and Non, who's played by Jack O'Halloran, are equally menacing. Ursa is particularly memorable for her fierce attitude, while Non is more of a silent powerhouse. These villains have one goal, and that is total domination. And their chemistry with Reeves' Superman makes the stakes feel real. It's a great balance of fun and danger. Now, the action in Superman 2 is just as thrilling as the very first film, and some of the standout sequences still actually hold up today. I mean, you've got the fight scene between Superman and General Zod in the streets of Metropolis, and it is absolutely iconic. I mean, we're so blessed these days with some of the best fight scenes in all these superhero films. But what I love about this one is that it's so grounded. I mean, there's one particular part where Superman's got General Zod by the arm and the leg. He literally just starts spinning him around and then he throws him into the Coca-Cola sign. It's just some real laugh out moments, but some really good grounded fight scenes. And there's parts that don't hold up in this fight scene, but I think the majority of them do. There's a part where Ursa kicks up a drain cover and just launches it at Superman, but it's the way he then flies back into the windscreen of a car that in most other films today would be CGI, but you can tell this is all practical effects. And that's what makes it hold up so well when returning to watch this. This film actually had a bit of a troubled production history. You had Richard Donner, who directed the very first film, and he actually directed the majority of this one, until there was a bit of a bust up and he was replaced by Richard Lester. And you can feel that there's a bit of a tonal shift in the film because Richard Lester added a little bit more of a comedic theme to some of the scenes, and you can really tell there's a bit of a change. Now, although I grew up with these, so I never really noticed until, being an adult, that actually, it does really quite change a bit. He adds in some extra super powers that I don't think that Rich Donner would have added in. There's a part where he takes off the Superman sign and he throws it at someone. There's a part where he starts to just disappear and then appear in different places. Superpowers that I don't think we know Superman for. But as I say, I always loved it. It never made any difference to me growing up and watching it. I think you can just tell now as an adult, you can really tell the difference. There's some scenes in the fight scene at the end throughout the streets where there's like a guy on on the telephone, and you've got General Zod and Ursa and Non just going and blowing everyone down the street, and he's still just talking on the phone even though it blows over. There's someone on skates that's being blown down the street, and it does change the tone slightly. I think if you were to watch it today and never seen the film before, you'd think it was a bit silly. As I said, me watching it growing up as a kid, I loved it and made no difference to me. Despite the behind-the-scenes drama, Superman 2 still manages to balance both action, humour and emotion. And it's a great continuation of the Superman journey. So my overall thoughts are that Superman 2 is a solid sequel and expands on everything that we loved from the very first film. You've got an excellent supporting cast with some of the best villains in movie history. Is it a perfect film? Not necessarily, but it certainly holds up if you ever fancy watching a proper good superhero film. So thank you for clicking on this video. And if you'd like to support the channel, then please subscribe, like, comment, hit that notification bell, because when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're going to see some serious